Hi, hello, hi everybody. I'll be starting in just 1 second. Hi everybody, lovely to see you. My name's Amy Jury and I am speaking to you from here in my studio in Brighton, down on the south coast of England, and I am going to be doing some painting with you guys this afternoon. And I've been asked by the Tate Gallery to paint one of their illustrious female artists that they have in their collection, Cornelia Parker. I'm honoured, delighted, excited to be doing this. She's a beautiful mind, she's a beautiful face. So we're just going to crack on and see what happens this afternoon, doing a bit of painting right here live. Okay, so happy International Women's Day, everybody. This is in honour of this special day that we're celebrating female artists. I'm going to be talking a bit as we go along. I can answer questions if you want to send them in a bit later, and I'll talk you through my process, my materials. And I'll be here for quite a long time, to be honest, so probably anything that comes into my head and lots more as we go along. Okay, all right then. So we're going to get cracking and we start from the beginning. So here's my canvas. I've got my palette here with my oil paints on. I'm going to be doing oil painting. I have got my reference photo here. So you can see this lovely photo here of Cornelia. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to put down a background wash, so a coloured ground, something to start on. Really good way of starting a painting is to put down some colour straight away so that you get rid of that scary whiteness or whatever that you're painting on, and it's easier then once you start putting some colours down. I find it's easier to judge whether things are lighter or darker than that, rather than always working from such a bright colour. So I always like to put a colour down. And usually I'll have a look at the reference photo and I will have a think about what is needed, what colour I want to use. Maybe it's a sort of tone in their skin, maybe it's something, a colour that they're wearing or something from the background, or I just pick a colour that I would like to use today. So today I'm going to start off, I sort of put the camera like this, you can see, there we go. You can see the photo and you can see, I'll move the camera about a bit depending on what we're doing, but at the moment I want you to be able to see the photo and see the canvas, and I'm going to put down my first background colour. So I've decided on using a sort of greyish blue for this, so I've mixed up this greyish blue acrylic paint and I've got my nice big brush. So here we go. There we go. So started making some marks on the canvas. I've got a bit of water in here, so I'm going to thin it out a little bit, and this is a lovely flat brush. Can you see those lovely marks that it makes? So some of this might remain in the picture. I do quite like to use the background colour in a lot of my pictures, or it might get obliterated, kind of depends what happens, but I'm just going to put a bit down. I don't mind the drips, I like a bit of drips, because after all we're making a painting today. Yeah, it's not the same as a photograph. It's going to have brush strokes, it's going to have maybe some slightly weird colours in that maybe you wouldn't quite expect. Don't know, to be honest, I don't really know what's going to happen today, and that's part of the fun. So there we go. I think that looks kind of okay. I might just put a few more little washes in there. This is quite nice, some of this dark bits around here, isn't it? Okay, I'll leave that just for now. But now I'm going to try and do the drawing so that I can start. And for that I'm going to use the same paint that I just used. I'm just going to use a sort of smaller brush, and I'm just going to try and use a sort of like bit more concentrated bit of paint here. And I'm going to do the drawing now. You see that I put a grid down on my canvas, and I do have a grid over the photo as well. So you might be familiar with this way of working. So it's about having the same proportion of squares on this photo as you have on this, even if they're different sizes. There's the same number up and across as there are in both places. And then it's about being able to transfer some of those elements over and know that they're going to be in the right sort of place. Another decision I made today, which was interesting to do with the photo that I've chosen, is to work on this rectangular portrait format. I quite often like to work in a square, but I thought for this photo itself that this long format was actually better because of the nature of Cornelia's fabulous neck, head. There's something of the Modigliani about her. You know, these kind of elongated female forms, lovely long necks. So I thought that that would suit a longer canvas. So, you know, just thinking a little bit ahead of what shape canvas you're going to use for, depending on what type of image that you're going to try and copy. So I don't always use a grid. I tend to probably not use a grid very often, but I thought for today it's easier because I'm working quite quickly. I'm wanting to finish it quite quickly, so it just speeds things up a little bit. I might still change things about a little bit as I go along. It's totally up to you whether you want to use a grid to be helpful or whether you want to do it more freehand, more natural. But let's have a go. Right, so I'm going to just do the drawing now. So I'm going to be transferring some of the main elements, just a few of the basic shapes, over to my canvas. So I can use my grid formation, and I know I have to go 1, 2, 3 across, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down, and that is going to be where we're going to have that eye round about there. And then I can get on with the serious business of, well, we're going to mix some colours first and then go ahead with putting colours on the canvas. Yeah, so talking and painting, right? Turns out I can do it. Apparently it uses different parts of your brain. So actually, while I'm talking, one side of my brain is doing that bit, and the other side of my brain is actually thinking about the painting. Well, hopefully, amazingly. Not quite sure if that's really going to be true, but we'll see. Okay, and then I've got that. Her head's on this lovely bit of a tilt, bit of a slant. So that's something to remember, that all the features are going to be in a slight sort of diagonal. Our brains try and correct faces to be sort of forward facing and straight and symmetrical quite often, and you do have to watch out for your brain all the time, for your brain trying to fill in things that it doesn't quite understand or things that it thinks should be there. And in a minute actually you'll see that I'm going to switch from using this photograph to using a photograph of Cornelia that I put a blur on top of so that I can't see the detail. And I do this quite often because I like to work with more general strokes and be able to work with a nice big brush and be a bit more general and not get too bogged down with detail. I might go in and get a bit more detailed a bit later. So she's got this nice tilt to her mouth here. And this goes sort of like here. Okay, and then let's just find where the other eye is. I think it's about here. Goes over these two lines. And now a little things you can remember as well if you do want to get proportions right in portrait drawing. You know, do lots of drawing as much as you can, but you can learn a few little rules that are often true of many faces, not all, but of many. So one of them is that the side of the nose here will line up in a sort of straight line to the edge of the eye. So that's how I kind of know, and it also means that my eyes are not going to be too close together, hopefully. But please, somebody tell me if the eyes do suddenly start doing like that, going a bit wonky. Okay, so I've got this eyebrow comes down here. Let's just check that nose. I've got one nostril up high, one a bit lower. Careful not to make the nostrils too much like big holes in the head. But as you'll see, when I'm working from my more blurry photo in a little bit, there'll be much more generalising, blurring out of detail, and avoidance of all things lined. So the grid is useful for things I can just see the tiniest bit of face there, which means I know the angle of the chin comes up here, and then this one also is going to be here. This one comes up to here, and we're making our way up here to that little ear is peeking out down there, and up to the iconic haircut. Oh, okay, so we've got a couple of things coming in already. Martha says she's got a dentist appointment, can she watch it later? Absolutely. Martha, you can watch later. It's going to be on the Tate IGTV thing on Instagram. After this is finished, we'll upload it up there and it'll be there for you to watch at your leisure afterwards. So don't worry about that. Thank you so much for popping in. And someone else says they are drawing along with me. That's fabulous. Thank you. Keep me company. So I'm almost there with the face now. Got vague areas locked in now. Get this, the iconic hair as ever. Here we go, lovely, beautiful. Love her haircut. I'm interested to know if she's been able to keep it up during lockdown, unlike myself. Aren't we all looking forward to having a hairdresser's appointment? Maybe some of you guys have are experiencing the treat of kids back to school today, having a quieter house. In the UK here, many school children have gone back to school today. Not mine, unfortunately, yet, but later in the week. So that's really exciting for everybody. And so that is roughly what's happening. I will tweak it, I will change it, I will work it out as we go along. The grid will not be visible in the final piece, it will be obliterated. I will be rubbing it out, painting over most of it, to be honest. I don't know how much I will paint over this kind of background colour. I never really know about these things until I'll make some decisions at the end, when we get more to that sort of point. Let's have a quick look. We've got this sort of stuff going on here. Okay, so that's pretty much the drawing where it should be, I think. Just have a look here, just make sure this is as big as it should be. It's about right. Got kind of nose. Sometimes I draw in these kind of shapes, quite useful because you know the sort of circle on the end of the nose, the chin's got this kind of circular feel here. Just by picking it out roughly, it will help me shape it later. And of course the eye sockets. Eyes are really defined by the way they sit in the face. So if you can sort of find that eye socket shape, I know that's not going to stay there by the end of the painting, but it's going to help me choose what kind of tones to put down in those sorts of places. All right, okay, so that's the drawing bit done. I actually might, just before I mix some colours up, I'm actually just going to whack down a little bit more of this blue paint onto the hair. She's got this, like I keep saying, she's got this very fabulous hair, and I've got a slight idea that the hair might retain some of this blue, so I think it'll be useful to have some dark blue in there, because if anything, I know her hair is not blue, but if it's got the same sort of tonal value, so the same sort of darkness as her hair, it might work. We'll see as we go along. So there's a bit more of the blue paint on there. Just blocking a few of those shadowy areas, just start to give you a bit of an idea. It's got quite distinct light and dark sides of the face, which if you are choosing photos to reference to paint from, having photos with a good amount of contrast, light and dark in them, is going to be your way to have the most fun possible. If someone's got very even lighting all over their face, it's actually very difficult just to paint big flat areas of colour. Much more interesting to paint lots of different tones and colours. So hi everybody who's joining, my name's Amy Drury, so I'm painting Cornelia Parker in honour of International Women's Day for the Tate Gallery. I've put down my acrylic wash first, I've drawn from my grid, I've transferred over the main marks, and now I'm going to do a little bit of paint mixing. So I'm going to lead you over to my palette here, which I've fixed up here. Now you can see that I've already had a go, I've already started mixing up, because I don't want to take forever doing this. This takes quite a long time, so I'm just going to do a little bit more just to show you what it is that I do. And the way that I've started doing this is quite a recent thing, but it's really helpful, and I'm really pleased that I've discovered this way, is I make up what you might call a base colour here, although I like the term mother colour because it's kind of creepy, but also, you know, kind of nice. Creepy and nice at the same time, the mother colour. So this is a big amount of paint mixed up, which is a kind of really mid-tone. So when I look at Cornelia's face on the photograph, I can see lots of this colour in there. It's kind of not too light, it's not too dark. But what that means is that I've made this big area, this big blob of colour, and then all I do is I hook some of it out, and I go up to my colours at the top, and by adding a small amount of the colour that I'm interested in here, I have a brand new colour that's related to all the colours, because all the colours have a little bit of this in them, so they all have some sort of harmony together. And I quite like this idea. It stops me, I think, from going to like rainbow. I definitely used to do that a lot, like all the colours in the whole world would go onto my portrait. I'm trying quite hard now to sort of rein that in a little bit and be a bit more considered. So you can see my palette at the moment, I've sort of mixed all these greens down here. The cool tones on her face I think are quite, there's a sort of slight touch of green in there. I'm probably amping it up a little bit here. I've mixed a few brownish colours and some of these light pinks, and you might call it puce, which is a wonderful colour, which is this kind of slightly sickly colour. The interesting thing is that I've discovered mixing pink with green, I've got this quite bright cadmium green here, sounds like it would be a terrible idea, doesn't it? But weirdly, it can make a really nice base for this kind of skin tone. just takes the pinkiness out a little bit. Yeah, and it makes the colour actually quite complex, you know, pink and green mixed together. You can see that with your eyes. It's very tricky, and oil paint lets you do that. Mixes two colours together, and somehow you can see pink and green at the same time. Okay, so I've done that. I think what I'll do as well is while I'm here, I'm going to mix up a few more sort of pinky colours with lots of green. So I've got lots of cool colours. What I need is some more warm colours. So that's always a nice thing to think about when you're painting, is have I got a nice mix of darks and lights. Make sure you've got some dramatic differences in darks and lights, and have I got some warm and cool. So she's definitely got some pink tones on the face. That is probably a bit too pink. Mine's not far off the lipstick. I might just like knock it down a little bit with a little bit of yellow ochre, and that might be useful. And what this means is that I've got all these patches of colours ready prepared. I used to mix up things as I went along, and now I've realised that this is much more useful. It stops me, like I say, from going to rainbow, and also just means that I can paint quicker and with more of a flow, because I've got all these colours already waiting for me, ready to just grab at any time. So I've mixed a bit more yellow ochre in there, so it's a bit more of an earthy pink. That's quite nice, isn't it? There we go. I think I might end up using some sort of darker pink, so oh, that's a bit of a gooey bit. Now, the colours that I have on my palette change from painting to painting, don't always have the same colours at all. And in fact, this is quite a lot of colours. I don't always have this many colours here. I've just sort of given myself a few more options just in case. Oh, that's quite a nice kind of mulberry colour there. And although it's very dark, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll take half of it and just make it lighter, because that might be nice for later. A dark one and a light one, which are basically the same colour now. Okay, so the colours that I've got here today: titanium white, lemon yellow, yellow ochre. This is cadmium red light. Not sure if I'm going to need that. This is cadmium red. Won't really need much of that maybe either. Although, let's have a little look. Let's see what happens if you mix that red and that green and a bit of white. See if we get another interesting colour. So it's not using the crimson, it was using the cadmium. Oh yes, that's a nice colour. I'm quite glad I did that now. It's got a little bit more sort of browny, earthy tones in it. And even if I scrape that off there and put a bit of yellow ochre in it, so it's quite fun all this, you know, mixing up all these beautiful colours. Anyway, I was showing you the colours. Cadmium red, this is rose madder, but any sort of crimson or dark red is a good idea. And then ultramarine blue. This is cerulean blue, nice bright light blue. This is the cadmium green, which you don't really always need that, but I quite like it for these sort of skin tones. And then I've got a raw umber, which is a nice flat dark brown, and I think that is what is it? I've got it here. Brown madder, which is a kind of reddish brown, which is quite nice. I've got a little bit of black stuck on the end there just in case I need it as well. Might not need it, but it is there just for me in case I need it. So I think this will get me going, what I've done so far, and I'm going to go ahead and start trying to chuck it on, to be honest. Here we go. Let's have a look. Get it so you can have a good view here. Right, here we go. Right, everybody, what do I paint first? Don't know, depends from picture to picture. I think what I'm going to do here is, because I'm trying to work quite quickly today, I'm going to try and put down some large areas of colour with one of my pretty big brushes. This is 30 millimeters, so 3 centimeters wide, square brush. And I'm just going to go for it. I'm just going to put down some big bits of you know, these kind of fairly neutral kind of base colours that I was mixing up there, you know, my base, my mother colour. Maybe I'll try and start with that, just so I can like break the painting in as it is. These marks, they might disappear later, so here we go. Always fun doing those first few marks, and nice to use a big brush that just does some lovely big sweeps of colour. I can add to those, I can change them. Yeah, I might paint over them later, but at least it's got me started. And also quite helpful because I can start to judge from the photo. Do I need to go a bit lighter? Do I need to go a bit darker than that? What is happening? So yeah, I'm all for going in with quite big bold marks to start with and seeing how it goes. You're never going to know, you're never going to be able to paint the same painting twice. So it's always a fun experiment to see what exactly is going to happen. I always quite like this bit around the nose, finding that bit of nose is quite interesting. And what you might be able to see as well is that with the brush, what I'm doing is I'm trying to angle the brush stroke to suggest the form of the face. So I've got these sweeping areas around the eye here, across for the forehead, down for the nose, around for this bit that nobody knows what's called down here. So using the brush kind of to suggest the form, it's going to do that job for you, hopefully, as well as the sort of colour choices, tone choices that you choose to put down. I might switch over to my, I should show you my photos again, because someone has said, Isabella said, I always struggle with painting the eyes. Yes, eyes, really tricky. Look at my photo here. I don't know whether you can quite see this, but I'm going to switch it. Oh, that's a cheesy photo of me. To this photo of Cornelia that I have put a blur on Photoshop. I've put a blur on top of it, which means that it's more general. It's very soft focus. All the detail has gone. I can't even really see the pupils of her eyes. I can't see any eyelashes. So all of that kind of fine detail is taken away, and I really like working like this because it just stops me from getting too caught up in detail, worrying too much about little things, keeping with the big brushes, keeping things a bit blurry even, so the painting might look a bit blurry, which is, I think, quite cool. Like I say, it's not a photograph, so let's just go with it. Right. So some kind of colours here. Chin. You need quite a lot of paint. This is actually quite a big painting, so I need to work with quite big strokes, quite broadly at first, just to get some colours down there. I'm going to go in with a slightly greener tone, which I can feel like I can see up here. So I guess what I do is I try and see the hint of colours that you can see in skin. You know, you can see vague greens or vague blues, and then I suppose I am overemphasising them a bit. I'm going with them a bit more, so it's not going to be super blended, it's not going to be super realistic. It's going to have lots and lots of colours, and the colours are all going to mash up together here. They're all going to hit against each other and sit onto each other. I'm a big fan of just piling on the paint. Oil paint is a beautiful substance for that. It'll just sit and it'll give these lovely beautiful brush strokes as well, so really nice thick wadges of paint that you can put on and just leave there. It's absolutely lovely. So let's see, I'm gonna try and find this kind of eye shape a bit more. Okie dokie. Good. So I've managed to put down quite a bit of paint already. This is good. And let's have a look. We've got a slight warmer pink here, so you can see this pink coming in. And So what I've chosen is a palette that's full of these greens and pinks, light greens and light pinks, which are just very lovely things together, very lovely colours together. And with my blurry photo, I'm just popping it on. I probably need glasses as well, to be honest. And a lot of artists say that they prefer to work without glasses, you know, so that they have this slightly blurry focus, which means that it gives you more license to interpret, to make up, to feel your way around it without having to be too much of a slave to reality, I suppose. Okay, so that pink's nice, and I feel like it's under this eye as well, so let's just put that in there and see how that goes. There we are. So still using this big brush. Now on canvas as well, you know, you can do this dragging across with the brush and with the paint that's fairly dry. I'm not mixing it with any kind of medium or terps or anything. It's pretty dry, clunky, crusty paint, and it just drags really nicely. There's that kind of nice orangey colour that we made earlier. I like that. I'm going to put a bit more of that in there. I can see some of that there. So I do sort of jump around quite a lot. I'll jump around the canvas quite a lot, and don't ever, you know, some people they'll work on each area consistently, and then move on and go down the face, something like that. I tend to pop in and out here and there. So yeah, people would like to see the photo as well. I'm hearing, okay then, so if I do that, then you can kind of see both things that are going on. Thank you, everybody. Yes, so Faye is asking, where am I based? I'm here in sunny Brighton, down here on the south coast in the UK. It's a fabulous place to live. I've been here for almost 25 years. I'm originally from London. I did go to art school, and I went to art school in Glasgow in Scotland back in the day, and I did printmaking. Didn't think I was a painter then. I thought I probably wouldn't get in if I applied for painting, so I applied for printmaking because I like drawing, and it was great, and I had a fabulous time there. And so I didn't really paint seriously for a long time. Very recently, really, I picked up the paintbrushes again, so luckily I always think it's one of those great things that it's not like you're a prima ballerina or something where the skills and the talent are going to slip from your grasp as you get older. This is something that actually you can get better at as you get older, and it's just a question of keeping going and keeping learning. You know, I learn a lot from Instagram. Actually, I learn a lot from looking at artists on Instagram, and sometimes I try and sort of emulate their techniques. Okay, I was going to say copy, maybe I should just be honest. Maybe I copy their techniques sometimes, and I learn a lot from that. And you know, I look at art books, and I try and find things that I'm interested in, I'd like to try. And to be honest, lockdown has been quite good for me for that. I know that it's a very difficult situation for different reasons for different people. I had an interesting lockdown really, because I got diagnosed with breast cancer in October last year, which meant that I stopped work, and so like many furloughed people, I was not at work, and the country was in lockdown for the last 6 months, more or less. And I had my treatment. It went really well. I'm very lucky. They caught it very early, so all you fabulous women here on International Women's Day, check yourselves out, keep remembering to do that. Catch it early. The treatment is amazing, the NHS were amazing, and I'm fully recovered. Going to go back to work quite soon. Okay, so here we go. I'm chucking in all these lovely bright pinks and greens here. Balu asks, are you cleaning the brush in between the colours or using more than one brush? No, I keep just chucking it onto the same brush, to be honest. My studio etiquette is absolutely horrible in terms of cleaning and being tidy. I tend to keep just piling it on until, you know, I get a really radical colour that's gonna not cope. But I just love that about oil paint, is that oil paint will keep piling on top of each other, and you can keep just putting a new colour on and it will just sit there on top. It won't melt in and mix with the other colour underneath, and then you can just pile it on top. And even if it does mix a bit with some of the colours underneath, then I'm creating that kind of harmony maybe that I'm looking for, where the colours don't sit in isolation from each other but do have a relationship with each other. Okay, so this is all kind of happening. Cool. I might go in now. I might actually just gonna find this kind of, this is a lovely, this is definitely puce right here. I think that's puce anyway, that kind of like sickly green. Sorry Cornelia, I don't mean to say that you've got sickly green skin. It's just I'm quite into this colour at the moment, and I'm taking advantage of enjoying it, but hopefully you won't look sickly. Absolutely delighted to be painting Cornelia Parker. She's the most fabulous artist, so inspiring, such an interesting mind, such fabulous concepts that she comes up with. I hope that if you're not familiar with her work, you can check it out. There's some bit of bright green there, that was maybe a bit green. So I might just wipe my brush now because that green was a bit horrible, so I'll get that off. And you could sort of do some scraping. I tend to not do much scraping unless something goes horribly wrong. I'll just tend to paint on top, and you never know, that might work out in the end, you never know. Okay, so what shall I do next? I'm going to grab my next brush down, which I really love painting with. I'll probably paint most of the painting with this one, which is my favourite brush. So that's probably about 1 centimetre long, centimetre across, and nice flat synthetic brush, all vegan art materials here. And I'm going to go in and try and work up these eyes just a little bit. Okie dokes. Right, so we've got a couple of interesting questions here, thank you. Did being diagnosed with cancer change how you approach your work? Oh, I haven't really thought about that. Well, I don't know. It made me embark on a series of work that I probably wouldn't have bothered doing before, which was I just painted portraits of my friends. It was fairly simple, it was not conceptual, because I do these kind of bigger narrative type paintings as well, but I'd always really wanted to be good at doing portraits, so I thought I'm going to do some portraits of my female friends, my wonderful friends, and I had the time to do it. And the walking and the talking that we did, you know, that's all we could do really, was walk and talk, was so therapeutic. You know, talking with my friends and being in the outdoors in the Sussex Downs, and then going home and sitting and looking at their faces and examining their faces and trying to do them justice. That was brilliant because I did this whole series. I probably painted about 12 of these portraits of my friends, and I could feel myself sort of improving with every single portrait, and getting different ideas of different things to try. And I wouldn't have done that probably if I didn't have the time, and you know, and I wanted to honour my friends, the people that I loved, and you kind of honour them by staring at them and by noticing them when you paint their portrait, and that felt important. So maybe that was part of it, of just trying to take care of what was important. Okay, I'm going to sort of try and put the eye in so that it starts to come together a little bit. I need to get my slightly smaller brush for this. Someone's asked as well, do I ever do self-portraits? I do self-portraits sometimes. After all, we're always our own best models, aren't we? The most reliable patient models we're ever going to get. Now, while I was just talking there, I just whacked down that eye there, didn't I? So this is, if someone's asking about, I always get panicky about eyes. This is what I'm doing. I'm just doing, that was it, boof, boff. Not trying to get all the little complexities of the eye in yet. Think about that later, maybe, if I want to. But sometimes I'm finding actually a fairly general sweep of the eye can be really nice. You don't have to do very much detail. So there's a little bit of white on that side of the eye, but on the other side I can notice that there really isn't much white of the eye. That's another top tip. Whites of the eyes are rarely white. They're usually got browns, greys, blues in them. If you do go too white, it can mean that the eyes can look a bit mad and starey. So I don't mind that this is all a bit choppy and chunky. That's okay. I don't know what that's doing there. Let me get a bit of this green colour. It might be a bit too green. But she's got lovely green eyes. And that's going to be quite good for my green pink palette. Okie dokes. Right, let's go back to seeing if we can work out what this shape is here. It's fairly yellowy, glowing-y colour. I'm just going to get a big load of it onto this lovely brush. Look how it's going to, and I'm going to follow that form of the eye socket again. So using the sweeper's brush to suggest the form. And you can see the blue underneath. As the paint crackles and separates as it goes across, you get the blue, which you can leave in as much of that as you like, or you could obliterate completely, but that's a really nice, it gives you that option of having just another little layer of something. Interesting, mysterious. Right, so I want to start chunking up this paint a little bit. I'm going to put a bit of the dark brown. So again, I'm not going in with a fine detail brush. This is and that's about as dark as anything on the face is going to be. I can see that from the photograph. It's about as dark as anything on the face is going to be. Right, there's a little bit of dark in that eyebrow there. Put that there just to remind me. I might do these whites of the eyes on this side as well while I'm at it, because this is quite a shiny white here, and then it's very grey and barely perceptible over here. Okay. Right, it's all looking quite ice creamy at the moment, isn't it? It's very sort of fresh and ice creamy. I'm leaving the shadow side is going to be obviously with more sort of browner shades, I think, so it's going to sort of be able to tone that down just a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to just have a look and see what questions people are saying. Do you prefer acrylic or oil paints? Well, I do really love acrylics. I love working with acrylics. I think they're fabulous, and sometimes I do choose to work in acrylics, but I really prefer oils for portraits. Yeah, I just love the way that you can push the colours about and create these lovely mixes and keep moving it and keep layering on top of it. That red's quite strong. I feel like I need to put it over here as well. It's getting a bit of a Matisse vibe here with all these colours. This is pretty brightly coloured for me, to be honest. That's okay. Let's get some. That was that nice red that we mixed up earlier. So let's see if I can find that nose down here. Is that a good viewpoint here, so it's alright, or do you want me to get a bit closer in, but then you won't be able to see the photograph? Closer? Stay as we are. And then we have this. Let's start thinking about the lips, and then we'll have made some moves on all the main features. You know, this is the fun bit of painting. The fun bit of painting is often kind of the beginning bit, when things are not really too fixed and when you can be full of possibilities. And it tends to enter a valley of doom. I'll tell you when we get there, and then it's the long road to the struggle for a hopeful and happy conclusion. Hopeful. So someone's asked, what do I find most challenging about portraits? Well, I suppose, I'll tell you what sometimes happens is sometimes you get asked to paint somebody else, and it's someone you don't know, and that is often absolutely terrifying. It's very difficult to work from people you don't know. I mean, I know we're used to working from photographs, and I'm really not snobby from working from photographs and from using those as your source material is absolutely fine. But I think it's when you're trying to get a likeness of somebody you don't know. I mean, someone like Cornelia, I have watched videos of her. I kind of got a nice feeling of how her face moves. I love the way that she talks, and I feel like a bit, hopefully, I know her a little bit. But if someone you haven't met before, that can be really, really difficult. So likeness can be very difficult if that's what if that's what's needed. It's not always needed in a portrait, is it? But if that's what you feel like you need to do, that can be very painful. Right, so I'm just sort of chucking a lot of this kind of mulberry colour in here. So we've got this eyebrow here. It's too bright. It feels like there's a little bit too much rainbow colours going on around here, so I'm merging it all down a little bit. I'm sort of roughing it up a little bit. And Louise is asking, do you prefer painting from a photo or from life? Well, I do prefer painting from life. Painting from life is its own excitement. It's got its own challenges, definitely, but it's so exciting to be able to make those decisions yourself, to be able to see the person in 3D, decide on your angle, take into consideration all the elements. Whereas when you're working from a photograph, that's somebody else has made that decision for you. Or even if you've taken that photograph, it's a fixed point in time which doesn't allow for the sort of, I don't know, freedom, an ability to make choices, and those choices are often scary. They're sometimes difficult, but it's very exhilarating, very absorbing, you know. So I think you'll know that when you're in a life room painting from life, and you're feel so absorbed. I've got a nice question from Veronica. Is there a female painter you admire? Yes, there definitely is. Lots of female painters I really, really love. At the moment, probably my favourite female painter is Kay Donaghy, Donachie. She's a British painter. Really in love with her work. But also other painters I like really a lot at the moment is Jennifer Pachinski, who's an American painter. Very free. You've just never seen anything so free. I'm so envious of how she paints. Jennifer Pachinski. And Jennifer Packer is another one that is fabulous that I'm really enjoying at the moment. There's some great artists on Instagram that I found, like Bernadette Timko, Timko. I actually own 2 of her paintings, which I'm so pleased about. She's fabulous, very young. There's so many good painters at the moment, female painters. It's a very exciting time. So yeah, I'm hopefully going to finish, or kind of be close to finishing this this afternoon. I'm going to try and keep it under 2 hours, the session. I'm sure most of you aren't going to stay for the whole 2 hours. Thank you for joining me for however long you are, though. It's lovely to have you. Just another hello. I'm Amy Jury, and I am here in Brighton, UK, and I'm painting Cornelia Parker for International Women's Day, and showing you some of these decisions that I'm making. Now, I need this very dark shadow around her eyes to be much darker. Here we go. Oh, it's quite dark. Always give you a bit of a surprise. Tons of paint on this area now, so I'm just basically smushing it around. And add some more on. Okay, yeah, kind of interested in that. Okay, now I started the lips and then I got distracted, so I'm just going to go back and do a little bit more down here. See if we can make them not look like they're sort of stuck on, which is sometimes the problem with lips. Someone's asking, has the pandemic affected my creativity? In a good way, yes. I'm lucky. I have been able to paint and motivated to paint, and so it's been really good. I'll tell you the story about how I am here today, actually, because that's quite interesting, and it's directly related to being able to paint, finding time to paint, and the power of Instagram, really. So I've been taking part in Portrait Artist of the Week, which is a internet program on Facebook, and it's run by Sky Arts. It's related to their program that they have, which is Portrait Artist of the Year, which is my favourite program, and it's all about people painting portraits. And so they started in lockdown this series of internet programs, so Sunday morning paint-alongs, where an artist would paint a famous sitter, and everyone who wanted to can paint along at home and upload their images to the hashtag, and then there would be a bit of a winners situation. But really it's a beautiful thing, just something to do on a Sunday. 4 hours of a Sunday morning painting portraits, feeling like you're in a community of other people who are trying to do the same thing as you. I was happily painting away, and I'd communicate with my friend Emily up in Glasgow, and we'd show each other our pictures and have a little chat as we were doing it. So it was just a lovely thing to do in lockdown. And a couple of weeks ago on the programme, they had the actress Nicola Coughlan, who is in Bridgerton and Derry Girls, and she was a fabulous sitter, this beautiful fresh face, And so I sat down to paint her and enjoyed it, and finished it quite quickly. Finished it in about 2 hours. So immediately then went and just uploaded it to the hashtag and just sort of went about my day. I'd finished it, and she was still sitting there for another few hours. So whilst she was sitting there, Nicola Coughlin, she she was looking at her phone, and she showed a couple of pictures to the screen of ones that she'd seen been uploaded, and she saw mine and she showed it to the screen. And then later on she reposted it. She reposted some of the ones that she liked, and that was something that the lovely people at the Tate saw, and then they looked at my series that I was just telling you about, the one that I'd done of my female friends that I'd painted in lockdown on our wintry walks, all these faces of wonderful midlife women, and they thought that this would be a nice idea for International Women's Day, celebration of women in portraiture, and painting one of the wonderful artists in the Tate collection. So they asked me if I would do this. Here I am. Here we are. Thank you for being here with me, keeping me company. Alison says, I can't do lips for the life of me. I know what you mean, Alison. It is definitely one of the most challenging things. I kind of usually feel like it's going okay, and then I'll step back and it'll just be weird. There's that famous quote by John Singer Sargent of a portrait is, oh gosh, I can't remember, is a picture of somebody with something wrong around the mouth, something like that. And I often feel like that there's something wrong around the mouth. The mouth is a very expressive part of the face. You know, people say eyes are the windows to the soul, but sometimes I think maybe it's the mouth that says it all. So, okay, how are we doing? I've been here for almost an hour now, painting away, and we're doing okay, aren't we? We're doing okay. We've got some eyes, we've got a nose, we've got a mouth. So I'm going to do some more kind of trying to block in some of these patches here, and then we can see where we are. Right, let's have a look. What is that called? I must learn. Whatever it is, it's a kind of greyish colour, greyish blue, hint of that mother colour, so that base colour that I mixed up at the beginning, always going to be good to go back to. Slightly darker, yeah. And go ahead, try and start this shadow under here. I don't mind telling you that I find shadows really tricky. What colour is that? It's a really complex mix of colours. Now, just suddenly saw that up there. Can't live with it. As soon as I see something that's not quite right, I can't live with it. So I'm going to have to quickly just pop up there and fix that. That's a bit better. Okay, and why have I left this here like that? That's just annoying. Let's just sort that out there. And now this is an incredibly bright green, which could be way too much, but there is that very light highlight there. You might be able to see. So let's pop that in. Make sure it's quite fresh by chucking some more paint at it. There we go. Oh, lovely. Very ice creamy there. And we'll put a bit of that in the eye as well, and over there, because it's so nice and bright. Okay, and then even a little bit there that I might work in a little bit more. And while I'm there, I'm seeing all these other highlights now that need a bit of this really bright green. And there is a very bright area up here. Okay. Right, let's go back to where we were down here. Richard has said, I love how you captured the wary, elusive expression. Yes, she has a very lovely expression. She's gentle, she's inquisitive. So I have to be careful not to be too brutalistic with my brushwork, which is difficult sometimes for me. To try and keep a little bit of softness in there. Okay, that's kind of something's happening there. His lips are much flatter than that. Here we go. So here's where we start having the lip trouble, the mouth trouble. Do that. No, need some bright pink down there. Now, I feel like that is heading away up there that it shouldn't be. Ah, I can see what the problem is. It's here. And correct that a little bit, and now that's making me see that this is a little bit wonky. She has got this tilt on her face and a tilt on the smile, and this might be wrong also. So sometimes I do use a good old baby wipe. Just bring that in a little bit there. I'll try and find that edge. I feel like she's much slimmer in the face there. Sorry, Cornelia, I will be bringing that in. I'm going to pop the ear in actually, just so I can start balancing up. Yes, it's a constant need to balance and a constant need to judge one thing against the other. So if you do something, how does that affect something else? So the hair's going to be a big decision, you know, because that's going to be a big affect of all that dark mass as to how that looks. Well, I quite like that ear, that little bit of pink over that side there. Makes it feel a bit sort of more balanced for me now. The Cupid's bow or philtrum is sometimes called the love charm. Thank you so much. Please, can I remember that? Cupid's bow. Thank you, Leslie. Okay, I'm just putting a bit more colour in this side of the face now because they're maybe a little bit too flat. And we've got this big bit of hair here. That's going to go up there. Oh, all those bits of So, to carry on slightly with the story of how I got here, I suppose what the Tate are doing is there's more events like this happening all the time, that they're mixing up kind of artists like me with more well-known artists, and they are getting people excited to try things themselves, and also give you something, hopefully, you know, if you're just wanting something relaxing to do, if you're finding this relaxing to watch, if you're not me and you're at home watching this, then that's also a lovely thing that the Tate are doing for us at the moment. Aren't we looking forward to getting back into the galleries though? I'll be looking forward to seeing the Jennifer Packer show and the Lynette Idem Boaki show, which is on at the Tate Britain. Really looking forward to seeing that, if we can get up to London. So Lauren says, any tips for those trying out oils for the first time? Okay. sometimes people like to use a more restricted palette. I think I've sort of touched on this already, but there's the sort of, it can be quite overwhelming, all the colours, all the rainbow colours, and you'll end up sort of, all the colours will go on, and because they don't dry and you'll be mixing them all on top of each other, things can get kind of a bit muddy and a bit difficult quite quickly. So maybe try giving yourself a restricted palette first of all. So get your oil paints. Don't worry too much about all those things like mediums and all that kind of stuff. I don't think you really need all that stuff. You just need your oil paints. A couple of good brushes though. Make sure you get some nice brushes. I mean, I'm a big fan of these square brushes. Can't paint with anything else, to be honest. But whatever you like. There's a palette choice called the Zorn palette, which I know a lot of people like to start with, which is just giving yourself a restricted palette. So only 4 colours on your palette. And so it's quite easy for you then to manage them and to then explore all the amazing ways that they can mix and create different tones, just out of 4 colours. And that is black, white, yellow ochre, and cadmium red. So basically red, yellow ochre, which is kind of dirty brownish yellow, and a white and a black. And if you've got a choice for the black, you might want to choose a Mars black, which is a bluish black, which gives you a bluish tone in there as well. But if you any old black, go for it. So look it up, Zorn palette, Z-O-R-N, and just try to explore what you can mix with those 4 colours. You'll be amazed with what you can achieve. And then when you look up Anders Zorn, who is the painter who created this idea, and see what he managed to achieve with those 4 colours, the sorts of paintings that he did with 4 colours, your mind will be blown. So you don't need all the colours in the whole world, is what I would say. Okay, so we're kind of working down the face here. Do we feel like, is this getting annoying, this big blue strip down the middle of her face? Should we go for that? It's just that I can't quite decide what colour it is. It's neither here nor there. So I'm going to go back to my base colour, my mother colour, and I'm going to pop that in and see how that feels. And then see, because I know I need to do my nice, there's always the classic kind of highlight on the end of the nose, which is always a bit of a treat. So I could give that a go. Right, how are we getting on here? Let's have a look. So you can see they're really just putting colours down together, a bit like a jigsaw puzzle. And I'm gonna do that little highlight on the nose. Might go in a bit of my titanium white there. Pop it on. There you go. Bit of white in the eye. I can't see that if she's got any of those little light dots in her eye, which is always a thing. I'm not really quite sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing all the time, but because I'm working from this very blurry photo. So I've got this photo of Cornelia Parker. By the way, hi, I'm Amy Dury. I'm painting here in Brighton. I'm painting Cornelia Parker for International Women's Day. International Women's Day here for the Tate Gallery. And I'm working from a photograph that I have put into Photoshop and put a blur on top of it. So it's generalised the features out an awful lot and means that I am not worrying too much about any detail. Someone has asked, what colours made your mother colour? Yeah, that's a good question. The colours that I started with, should we go back and have another look at the palette? Yeah, let's do that. Should we give a little close-up of what's happening here? There we are. And then here we go, we've got the palette. And I was describing the mix of paint, and actually I could make up some more because I've actually worn it right down. This was my mother colour, so the first colour that I mixed was a kind of base colour which I thought was a very medium tone, so I could see it in the photograph. I could see a lot of it in the photograph, and I knew it was neither the lightest skin tone nor the darkest, but a kind of middle tone. And this helped me make all the other colours. So white was a big part, a lot of white. The rose madder or the crimson, the dark red pinky colour, and then the weird colour, the cadmium green. There's loads of different ways you can approach mixing skin colours, and it completely depends obviously on who you're painting, what their skin tone is, what the lighting is like. But you can see that green mixes with the red to just tone the brightness out of it, makes it more earthy, takes the red out of it, because obviously they're complementary colours. A red and a green are on the opposite sides of the colour wheel. They're complementary, so whenever you mix opposite colours together, you're going to get a nice toned down complex colour which mixes both of those tones together. So you can see there, that's probably a bit darker than what I started with. I think I had more white in it first. I might just make this patch up here a bit whiter there. Might use a bit of that later. There we go, so that was my mother colour. And then when I was mixing all these other colours before, all I did was I hooked a bit of colour out and then decided what I needed. Like, actually, I haven't really done this bit of ultramarine blue with the mother colour. It's going to give me, it's pretty much like that mother colour, but it's got that really interesting greyish blue tone to it. Oh, I like that. I didn't have that before, so I'm quite glad I just did that. So you see I've mixed up all these nice greenish shades. I've got my kind of neutral shades, the pinkish shades, and I've got some browns here as well. And they're all pre-mixed and pre-prepared that I did at the beginning, which I find really, really helpful. Hi. Really, really helpful to paint in this way, where I want to be laying on lots of different colours quite quickly. Okay, let's go back to where you wanted to, you can see the photo and we can see the painting. There we go. You could always look up that painting online probably, maybe as well, if you want to, and the photo, I mean, if you want to see it a bit clearer. I know it's not the best here. Okay, so we're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere. I did watch a couple of Bob Ross episodes before I did this. I think it might have influenced me a bit. I just want everyone to be happy and relaxed while I paint these happy little cheeks. I've got this green here, which is quite nice, which is a nice contrast to the pinks. I'm just going to quickly go in, and I don't understand why that little bit blue is still there, so let's get rid of that. There we go. And I feel like there's some more pink hovering around here as well. Okay, we're getting somewhere. But as you can see, I'm leaving this all this shadow area until the last. So that's the bit that's quite difficult, really. Yeah, so I'm using just a normal canvas. This is a super cheap canvas. I like working on cheap canvases and cheap surfaces because it stops me from worrying too much. You know, if I bought really expensive things, I think I'd make too big a deal of it, and things tend to go wrong when that happens. So yeah, just a cheap canvas, just a normal A2 size. This is, so that's 60 by 40 centimeters. Quite a nice big size to play around with a bit. Don't like working too small, you know, like to be able to get the big brushes out. Oh, Leslie says you've got Bob Ross's kind and calm tone. That is so nice. I know, he's so wonderful to watch, and so relaxing, isn't he? And you can see how much he loves painting and how much he wants you to be happy and for you to enjoy it. I know, he's lovely. Okay, these are really complicated colours here in this shadow. Yeah, I can't understand if that's pink or blue or brown, green or what really, so I'm probably just going to put them all on and see what happens. And yeah, so we're moving into the area of shadow, which I'm going to admit I find more difficult because there's so much colour information. The highlights, whew, lovely, chuck it all on. The shadows, what is happening? Okay. It's always very frightening doing a painting, you know. I'm sure Bob Ross isn't frightened. He doesn't seem frightened, does he? So I'm not as much like him as I thought. I always find it's quite you know, it's a scary place to be sometimes, when you're just not quite sure if what you're doing is the right thing, the wrong thing, but you kind of, well, especially today, I'm just going to get on with it. I have to kind of just get on with it, which is also quite liberating. But yeah, I'm probably in that midpoint of doom. I'm feeling alright about it at the moment, actually. Someone has said to me, Kenneth has said, how can we see more of your work? That's very kind of you. Check out my Instagram page, Amy Dury, Amy_Dury, DURY. Fabulous, please do. I do have a website as well, and appreciate that. Oh, a bit of bright green popped in there. This is turning into quite a kind of happy little painting. Maybe the Bob Ross has influenced me. I'm going to do that nose. There's something always difficult about the underside of the nose. Trying to find edges of things is always very difficult, especially on the face, where actually things are not as defined as you might think. There are not many lines on the face. The only true lines really are around the eyes and through the middle of the lips. But there's no lines down the side of noses, and actually there's no lines around the edge of lips. I mean, when someone's wearing lipstick, it kind of is a bit easier in that way, but generally it's just a difference in tone. There isn't a hard line between the two things. And as I'm saying that, I'm realising I need to blur these out a little bit. So finding edges of things is always really tricky, and things like around the edges of the nose, when from this blurry photo I can barely tell how that one starts and how that one finishes. So how am I describing that? I'm going to need to make that a bit more similar. And you've got to try and paint what you see. That's the point. Even if it's a blurry photo and you can't see what you need to see, don't make it up. That's the really hard bit. Your brain is going to want to just go, oh, I know what a nose looks like. Let's just put it in like this. This is probably what's happening. But your brain is a tricky thing. It's trying to make things kind of easy for you, and you'll end up painting things that aren't really there. So try and paint what you see, what is there, even if it's weird, even if it's really weird and doesn't make any sense. That's what I try and do. You know, it's a journey, it's a process. No painting is ever 100% finished and perfect, and always learn from every single painting. So here we go, working down on the chin here. So how are we doing here? So I've been going for about an hour and a quarter here. I'm going to try and keep under 2 hours today. If I don't finish, the painting will be available for you to see later on the Tate feed, unless I've thrown it on the bonfire. No, I'm not going to do that. It will be there. Right, let's have a look. Have we got any? Hey, Cornelia. Cornelia has a message and she said, go Amy, make me look as young as you can. Of course, darling. Of course, that's what I can do. That is also the privilege of an artist, you know. We're just old-fashioned Photoshop here. I'll definitely do that for you, darling. But thank you, and thank you so much for lending me your face for today and letting me enjoy painting your face. What a fabulous head you have, can I just say that? The beautiful structure of your hair as well. This is an absolute gift, and I thank you so much. And I would love to, we will all wish you a happy International Women's Day, and cannot wait to see your work in reality again. I was watching some of your videos, lots of stuff on YouTube the other day, and saw some things that I hadn't seen before. Everybody, guys, you know, go and check out some of Cornelia's interviews and some of the programs that you can find out there on YouTube. I watched a very interesting one where you were talking about your Magna Carta embroidery piece, which is an embroidery of the Magna Carta Wikipedia page, embroidered by inmates of prisons, so prisoners, various types of people who have been convicted of crimes, and then also finished off by like the Embroiderers Guild, these sorts of people. Absolutely incredible piece of work that just mixes the old with the new, technology with the ancient. Oh, really stunning. And I hadn't seen that before, so thanks so much, Cornelia, for that. I'm hoping that most of you have seen some of Cornelia's work. I'm sure you have. Cold Dark Matter, The Exploded Shed is probably her most famous piece. Also, another thing that I really loved that I saw was the photographs of the prison walls. So photographs taken up from the exterior of a prison. I think a prison that she's near in London. These cracks and textures on the wall that look like 1950s abstract expressionist paintings. So again, another really interesting kind of idea about being in prison, or being imprisoned, and being a member of society, being someone involved in this society, and what is our culture. Oh gosh, I don't know, so many levels. I'm probably not doing it justice with my description there, but go check it out. Right, how are we getting on here? Better do a bit of a step back every now and again. Okay, so I feel like this eye is a little bit hemmed in. A little bit hemmed in, needs to come out a bit. I love painting faces. It's endlessly fascinating. I mean, I think it's the subject matter that we're just so drawn to, because, you know, as babies, what do we want to do? We want to stare at people's faces. It's what helps us make sense of the world, to stare at faces. And I love the character in people's faces. I love how everyone's face will tell you something of them and who they are. Okay, so as Joe says, where are you painting? Can we see a studio? Yeah, that's a good idea. Should we do a little studio tour very quickly? Okay, take a 1 minute break. Okay, hi again. Hi guys. I'm Amy Jury. I'm here painting Cornelia Parker here for the Tate Gallery today. Okay, so this is my studio. Here, look at I wanted to show you my paint rack here. They're all hanging up on little clips here. Isn't that fabulous? And oh, I can see here something I didn't show you actually. I did make a sketch first of Cornelia in charcoal, which helped me think about the darks and lights in her face, and actually gave me the idea of working on the longer canvas, because I liked the sort of the tilt of her head and the long neck, that Modigliani effect. Sorry, I'm zooming you around all over the place. Here we go. So, full of paintings in various states of abandon or possible repair. It used to be called my dining room, this room, which is why it's got these kind of dark walls. I've got a big plan chest there. I've got a barber's chair there, which is not that helpful. My art books. More paintings. Okay. So yeah, it used to be called a dining room. It's now called the studio, which is what happens when you kind of get a bit carried away with art. So I'm going to crack on a bit, because I want to kind of pick up the pace and get this a little bit more concluded before we finish. Okay, so let's see, where are we at? We've got to try and get some of these darks in, haven't we? Come on, Amy, let's just do it. I'm going to get the big brush out again, and I'm going to try and find some of these. Let's see if we can see the reference picture again. find some of these complicated dark tones here, see what they are. Okay. Joe says, oh, Anton says, if you make a mistake, how do you correct it? I paint on top of it, Anton. Or, you know, I might get the baby wipe out, biodegradable baby wipe, and wipe it off. You could scrape it off with a palette knife, but I'll paint on top of it. I'll probably paint around the edge of the face here to get that face structure right after a while as well. And then I might also, even after a while, I might go in with a big brush and do some really big strokes over some of these. If it's all a bit too bitty and jumbly, I might go in with some big strokes later on. Okay, I'm going to put a bit of the mungey green, and I'm just going to see what this feels like. So, okay, I've done it now. Don't know if that's right. But as I've just said, I can paint over it if it's not. But there is this kind of like quite complicated greeny, it's both green and red at the same time. That's as best as I can say it, which is really tricky. So, you know, like I say, with oil paint, you are able to somehow get that complexity of colour. So to describe what green and red at the same time might possibly be, because oil paint will sit on a brush in that exact way. Right, I'm just going to need to get that nostril, or you will not know. Right, the one time I'm going to use the tiny brush, honestly. And it's going to be a nice dark red. Now I need to put a bit in up there. Okay, fine. Oh, now I've got going with that little brush, and it's all over the place. Right, go back to the shadows. Okay. Let's find something with a bit of reddish, greenish complexity. Here we go. Yep, it's quite nice. Right, now I feel like, just seeing that, I feel like there's not quite the tilt on the eye that I wanted. So I'm going to go back in and sort of do a little adjustment up here to bring this eye down. I'm just going to pull it all down like that. And that's the benefit of working fairly rough and chunky like this, is that you can do that quite quickly. Doesn't make a big problem. lips again, problem. They are on a tilt, and yet the tilt feels not quite right. I think maybe I need to put this little end of mouth in. Bring that side up a bit. Show you where that is. Well, this feels a little bit better. It's a constant process of tweaking these little things. All right, I'm going to try and put in some big areas of colour here. So someone's asked, Pearl asked, do you ever give painting lessons? Well, my job is as I'm an art teacher, so I do it quite often. I used to teach all sorts of people, all sorts of places, and then I've got this great job with Varndine College here in Brighton, and I love my job. And I love teaching the kids there. So I teach A-level, which is over here in the UK, what you do when you're 16, 17, 18. This is a great age for when you're getting interested in painting with art. So when I left art school, and I left Glasgow School of Art back in the day, I didn't really know what it was I was meant to be doing. I moved to Brighton to see what was going on down here. Never left. Didn't really know how to be an artist or what I was meant to do. Realised I needed to get a proper job. So I became an art teacher, and I do really enjoy that. That's been great. And then I've had kids and really didn't make art. I definitely didn't paint for an awful long time. I was making textiles and prints for a long time. Like I say, I only just really started painting seriously in the last few years. And now, slightly obsessed. Right, I'm going to pop in that ear. Let's do it. Quite a nice pink ear. More of that nice dark pink. I can definitely see lots of reddish pink in these shadows down here, along with all the other millions of colours that's happening. Someone's asking, do I start from dark to light? I know that that's a thing that a lot of artists do, and actually I do teach that, but I don't do a lot of things that I teach, I think. So I don't always put dark. As you can see, I'm putting the darks in last, because I'm so afraid of how complex they are. I found the lights much easier to do, so no, I just do whatever feels right at the time. But I had done that charcoal drawing first, which was really a study of the lights and darks in the face, which was very useful to try and tell me how dark I was going to need to go over here eventually, and what the difference was between the two faces, two sides of the face. So no, I don't really have a rule. I don't usually start with the eyes. I don't usually start with the eyes only because I do enjoy doing the eyes. They're a really interesting bit to do, and I kind of don't want to get them over with too quickly, so I kind of leave them for a little bit. Right, so we're cracking on a bit. I've got a nice light bit of skin just poking through just about there. Something's happening there. Good. There. So we're starting to kind of get a bit more filled in here, aren't we? Which is good, because we've done an hour and a half now, and that's a long time for anyone to be watching painting. So let's just try and resolve this chin. like I say, it's nice to put down some big brush strokes. So varying the brush strokes is kind of important, so not everything is the same all over. So a couple of different brushes, make sure they go in different directions, and if possible describe the form. Right, someone's asked for a close-up look. Absolutely, let's do that. Okay. So hopefully you can see kind of the raised paint, yeah, the chunky paint marks on there, which I think that's really nice as well. That's really important. Like I say, it's not a photograph, it's a painting. Be generous with the paint, have fun with the paint, thin areas, thick areas, quite like mixing those things up. Hi everybody who's just popping in, I'm Amy Dury. I'm doing painting here of Cornelia Parker here from my studio in Brighton for International Women's Day. I hope everybody is having a good day, maybe checking out some of the other events that are happening. Suddenly I'm back on the eyes again. How'd that happen? Constant fiddling. Okay. Yeah, I feel like we're kind of getting somewhere here. I feel like I probably need to do something on the neck here because I do want to have that. Like I say, she feels to me like a Modigliani, you know, who with these wonderful women with their elongated necks, beautiful, elegant figures. So let's see if we can. Start to get that neck in, which is important. So I'm using this mother colour again, so the base colour, because it's just gets me going. I might add lights and darks to it in a minute. Right, and that comes down like that, that goes like that, that goes like that. Actually, I need to switch to my other picture because I couldn't quite see all the neck there. So this is the picture that's got more detail on it. I don't really want to look at it because it's going to freak me out, because I'll suddenly realise all the things that I haven't included and that I haven't seen. But I didn't want to see everything. So I'm going to try not to look. I'm not going to look at the eyes. I'm just going to keep looking at the general shapes of this neck. Paint is super sticky. I might just put a tiny bit of my solvent, low odor solvent, to thin it out just a small bit, and get that nice greeny brown in again, which is sort of the same colour as there. Push that around there, and then, you know, this jawline, it's indistinct. It's indistinct in the photo, which is good, but it also means that I kind of have to make some decisions. Someone has asked, do you listen to music while painting? Sometimes I listen to music. You'll more likely find me listening to podcasts or audiobooks. I like a good true crime podcast and or an audiobook. something quite relaxing about hearing about other people being in terrible situations, unfortunately. Okay, I might come in with a bit of something, whack on some bit, some greener tones in there. So thank you for joining me if you have. Really have been enjoying myself actually. Time has flown by. Whilst we've been painting this picture of Cornelia Parker. Don't want to do an enormous amount more on the neck. Keep it fairly general. Right, so I've got a big decision coming up, guys. I'd absolutely love some feedback. Sometimes I do leave the background in areas of the painting. Sometimes I'll paint over all of it. So the question is here, should I paint her hair or should I leave it blue? Because it's quite a nice blue as it is. I could possibly paint this background out so that the blue comes forward. Or do I need to go dark with the hair? I'll see if I get some responses to people think whether they think a blue hair or... A lot of people saying leave it blue. Love the hair made of blue. I know, it's quite tempting, isn't it? Let's see if we can just do a little bit of finishing off around the skin here and then maybe we can make a bit more of a decision here. It's always a difficult one because as soon as I paint anything on it, I can't really take it off again. It will never look as good as that again because if I wipe it off too much, the acrylic will come off as well and it will never look quite the same again. Lots of comments for blue. Okay, thank you guys. Gosh, I should do this all the time when I have these difficult decisions in my painting. I just need to do a live stream and ask everybody else what I should do. Right, I'm just going to try and find this edge of this face a bit more. And then I can think about some little background touches and we'll be done. Sort of. I might fiddle with it a little bit before final post. Not an awful lot more. Now I'm wondering if I need to go even darker on this side. Let me just step back a bit and squint my eyes. No, don't mind that. Don't mind how dark that is. Squinting your eyes is always a really helpful technique when you're looking at lights and darks. I'm just going to darken this bit down a bit. Where you can try and start to see if you've got that balance right. There's always like a nice red ear sitting up there. And I can see some reflected light down here actually. Might need to go in and get my light grey, which I had prepared and haven't used. Here we go. Now that's given me an idea though, now that I've used that light grey. It's quite often you'll see bluish grey tones through the face. Maybe I just haven't really looked for them yet, and if I do, I'm sure I'm going to find some. And then everything changes. Got those nice greens down here, yeah. Nice greens there. Cornelia Parker says blue. Excellent. Thank you guys. Thank you everybody, and thank you Cornelia for that. That has actually made my life so much easier, not having to agonise about whether that would be a good decision or not. Thank you. Now I have to decide whether I'm going to paint this back a bit. I think I am going to paint this background out a bit so that we can see the nice shape of the face. First of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a bit of black line in there. I'm quite into a black line. I reckon I've stolen that from Degas, who I absolutely love, favourite artist. Load of black line in his work, which always influences me. So let's see what happens. And then, oops, find this shirt here, and sort of twisting and just playing about with the brush. It's just a sort of drawn element. I'm not sure if it's just because I'm too lazy to actually paint other bits like backgrounds and shirts and stuff, you know, after I've done all the face, but I think it's not that. I think I like the mix of finished and unfinished, mix of sketchy and worked up. You know, it's just another one of those opposites, those differences that you can think about in your painting. Dark and light, warm and cool, finished, unfinished, thick and thin with the paint. It's just makes things interesting. Okay, so let's see how we're doing. We are doing, so got done. We're almost at the end here now. So thank you so much. So yeah, hardest thing is to know when to leave it alone. Absolutely, absolutely impossible to know when to leave it alone. I don't know. I am going to now. Right. I do want to put something down here to find this edge. Face, although that blue is quite nice. See, this is another difficult decision here. I'm not going to ask you guys because that's not fair. I should know how to make these decisions, but I'm going to be honest, I never do. Right, I'm going to mix up a nice light. In the photograph, it's a really sort of light grey, nothingy, but nice and quite fresh colour. So I'm just mixing up here a bit of stony white, I would call that, and I'm going to actually just put a tiny bit of solvent. I'm going to thin it out a little bit so it's not as thick as my usual slap it all on, and I'm just going to see if I can find this edge of the face and hope that this wasn't a bad decision. Edge of the seat stuff. Not sure yet. It will help define her hair, I think, as well, because Cornelia's hair is so fabulous and iconic. It really is a big part of who she is. So I feel like we need to see the shape of the hair. So that's okay, because I could always rub this back even a bit more if it's a bit too much. Okay, and so last chance for some questions in the last 10 minutes or so. It's actually quite a pink colour that I just put down. I didn't really mean it to be pink, but it has come out pink. Oops, sorry, let's keep to that. So I might just put a bit more white in it and thin it down just slightly. How about a few drips? Shall we have a few drips? Let's see. send a drip off down there, see what it does, see whether that's nice. Now, probably because I'm using a dirty old brush, which is why it's going a bit too pink for my liking here, but I might go over that a bit if I want to make it less pink. But what it's doing is it's just defining the lovely shape of her head and bringing that hair out more. Let me just check that I've got the sort of right proportions. A bit late now anyway. Okay, so a few more questions here. Thank you, Keith. So lovely to meet everybody in this way. I hope you have had fun watching this. Hope you feel inspired to give it a go yourself. Have a try. Remember, you've got yourself as a model. Always you can use photographs. Don't feel guilty. And every one you do, you'll see an improvement. Every single painting you do. Do you have a favourite colour palette used regardless of the sitter? Not really. I suppose well, I say not really, but then yeah, I'll always put some yellow ochre down, and I'll always put some cadmium red and some crimson and some burnt umber and some ultramarine. So yeah, I suppose I've always got those kind of things there. But then I might add and take things away depending on what it is that I'm painting. I don't have many special colours, you know. I do try and mix like the Impressionists, you know, so like being able to mix everything from a small range of colours, not using black really. When I do need to use black, my best black is usually a French ultramarine mixed with whatever brown you've got, so like a burnt umber or a raw sienna, whatever you've got, but mix them together and you get a really nice complex black colour. It's much better than any black you'll get in your tube. Okay, when you feel low, do you find painting helps get you through it? Painting keeps me so busy, yeah, so busy that I barely have time to think about other things. So yes, it definitely helps. It gives you a purpose because it's so involving, because it's so interesting. It's a puzzle always waiting to be solved. There's always something there for you to do, for you to find out, for you to get further in, and that's so involving. It takes your mind off everything. So yeah, it's a wonderful way to work things out as well. Because when your brain is doing something like this, it's like putting together a jigsaw puzzle. I like to play Scrabble as well. So working with puzzles, elements that comes together, uses an area of your brain which actually frees up, I think this is true, frees up the rest of your brain to sort through things and think things out and to work stuff out. So it's like that. It's like putting together a jigsaw puzzle, putting together a puzzle and letting your brain relax and figure some other stuff out at the same time. Really, really helpful. Oh, that's gone quite dark green there. Jay says, what style would you say your painting is? That's a good question. Because if you do look at my website, you'll see the sort of the portraits I've been doing recently, but then you might go down and see the sort of more narrative style paintings that I do. And I tend to, for those, my style is generally, I will be looking at vintage photographs or going through archival film footage and finding figures and gestures that I like and using them in paintings. I don't really know what you call it. I think maybe you call it narrative paintings. But yeah, so I just find figures from photographs and do what I want with them. Okay. I probably need to go and have a cup of tea and a break and then come back and have a little look at this and then do a few more tweaks. So I think what I'm going to do is finish there. and then I'll maybe do 10-15 more minutes on it later, and I'll upload it so that you can see the finished product later. Okay, I'm just going to show you a bit of a close-up so you can see what's been happening. Don't be afraid of using lots and lots of paint, being generous with yourself, seeing what happens. Well, anyway, that's kind of what I've done today. I've really enjoyed painting my picture of Cornelia here today for International Women's Day. Happy International Women's Day, everybody. Thank you so much to the Tate for asking me to do this special session today. I've really enjoyed it. Yeah, get back to work, everybody, and happy painting. All right, bye-bye.